Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, and welcome to Tune Into Sales. It is 2026, and we are looking forward to another year of bringing you incredible content as we have an opportunity to help you tune into sales ideas, sales techniques, sales strategies, and meet individuals that are leading in this industry. And today is no exception. Very, very excited to have one of the newest entrants into the Legacy family, Miss Marti McLeish, who brings a stellar background and a stellar history of working in the financial services industry and is leading as our national sales leader. So, Marti, welcome to the episode. I'm glad you're with us today. Can you start by giving those that don't necessarily know your story, maybe a little bit of your backstory of what brought you to Legacy and the experience that you bring as, the incredible person that you are to the role that you're serving in?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, John. So I started in the independent space about 23 years ago, and I started on the wholesale side. And I spent my first 13, 14 years in that side of the business. And one of the things I learned and realized early on was I did not have that depth of experience that the advisors and agents I was working with had. And so in order to kind of help them with ideas and business building tools and things like that, I just didn't feel like I was effective enough. And so I decided to make the change and leave the wholesale side and go over to the retail side. And so I did move over to working for a couple different independent advisors, running offices, setting appointments, then moving into building my own book and, holding seminars and different things like that. I did a little brief stint, as I like to call it, over at Mass Mutual, which is completely different than our side of the business. And again, it was just another one of those building blocks that I really didn't realize that I needed to fully understand the world that I'm serving. And from there, really opened my eyes to what advisors really need and the support that they are really missing in this industry. And that's that kind of growth and strategy content. As you know, John, a lot of advisors and independent agents get into this business not because they want to run their own business, right? They get into it
Right.
because they want to help people. They want, they grew up in the finance area and they want to, support in financial services, but not necessarily knowing how to or even willing to run an effective business.
Mhm.
And to be really successful in this industry, you have to be able to do that. So I moved over and took all of that, knowledge, that 20 years of knowledge, and learning and experience to my own organization where I was supporting firms and helping them build their growth and strategy. So really building out the systems and processes, the structure, helping them, really allowing those advisors to just get back to doing what they did best, right? And that's just focusing on the clients and focusing on, the financial side of things. And then by happenstance, I ran into our good friend Dominic Curcio at an event,
Mhm.
and we just started chatting about some opportunities that he thought were available within Legacy. I kind of shared where I was and what I was doing, and it just made sense. And the rest is history.
Well, Marti, we are glad to have you on board. And, it's exciting for a woman-owned company to have a female in the role that you're in leading as a national sales director, which really leads into the conversation I want to have today. And that's about women in the financial services industry. And Marti, for my first question, I want to pose to you in that regard, why do we see women entering the financial services industry in what I would say increasingly growing numbers? For many, many years, it was a male-dominated industry. But now every time I turn around, I'm seeing more and more women and some incredibly smart, effective women stepping into the ranks of insurance, investments, managed money, banking. Why are we seeing this happen in the marketplace?
Yeah, so great question. I mean, the short answer is social media and marketing. the need has always been there for women in this industry. That hasn't changed. But what's changed is the way that we're able to communicate that, and get that out to women, and let them know this is the type of industry we are. These are the things that we stand for, and this is why it would be attractive for you as a woman. Again, the need has always been there, but the way we communicate it, the way we position the roles in this industry, unfortunately, the narrative has always been, it's and don't get me wrong, it is a grind, and it is a nonstop, but it's a very flexible, especially on the advisor side. It's a very can be a very flexible occupation, and I think that was kind of the disconnect that women had with this industry in particular. And so through better marketing and communication and things like social media, we've been able to really communicate that to women.
Yeah. Well, and I think looking at what's going on right now in the world around us, we're in the middle of this $124 trillion generational wealth transfer. And the bulk of that money initially is going to be going predominantly to women who are outliving their male counterparts by an average of 5 to 7 years. And so I think women having the opportunity to speak to a woman that has lived a similar life to what they've done and can relate to their experiences, I think is valuable. And I think that's one of the tools that makes women very, very effective when it comes to retirement income planning in particular. But Marti, I'm sure there's probably some other areas along those lines where women in the retirement space really stand out. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, the opportunity to work with women in this industry. So we've got two women issues, if you will, or opportunities, if you will. And the first is that there is a definite need for women in this industry, and as you said, it's starting to build, and we're starting to get more women in the profession. But also, there's this opportunity to work with women who will be inheriting all of this wealth over the next handful of years. And that really applies to both men and women in the profession, right? So it's an opportunity for all of us to be able to learn how to best support these women that are inheriting this money, learn how to best speak to them, how to have the conversation around inheriting this type of wealth, around education. And because, as you know, that's the biggest difference when it comes to working with men and working with women. Not that men don't want to be educated, but there is a deep, deep desire and need for a woman to understand something fully before she adopts it or purchases it or whatever the case may be. It's if somebody's doing it for you, it's really easy to say, well, I don't really need to learn that. But again, going back to the way we're communicating things, the role that marketing and social media is playing within the industry has really gotten that message out, at least trying to get that message out to women about what importance there is around understanding money, understanding your money specifically, where things are, passwords, accounts, what money you can pull from, what money you can't, all of that stuff, high level. And it's not to say that women need to be experts, or even should want to be an expert around it, but they just have to be knowledgeable, more so than they did in the past.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. An informed decision is always a better decision. And the more women can be informed about the financial decisions they have to make, I think the better those decisions come. But
Yeah.
Marti, we've seen tremendous opportunities open up for women. But with every opportunity that opens up, there's also a challenge that shows up. As we look at women in the financial services industry today, what do you see as the major challenges as women look at maybe entering this industry or growing into this industry? And what do you think the challenges are, and how do they overcome them?
One of the biggest challenges, and I don't speak, I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking in this scenario. I've been in the industry for 23 years, as I said. I haven't run into this to be a problem for myself, but just in many of the financial groups that I'm in with other women. I mean, it's just a fact. You walk into a room and you're going to be one of maybe a couple women in a room within an organization. And so for some women, that can pose a little bit of a issue, right? It just feels a little bit uncomfortable, whatever the case may be. But as far as other challenges go, there is the challenge that we as an industry tend to pull women into service roles. And right off the bat, we don't consider them for quote unquote sales roles. We don't consider them for advisor roles. We are looking now, a lot of that's changing.
Hmm.
For sure. Again, going back to just the way we're communicating it and seeing the opportunities, there's been a shift to some extent. But for the most part, when you go into these organizations, you go into the carriers, you go into the IMOs, you go into any of the large, RIAs. In the operations and the service side, it's you're going to see typically more women. So kind of shifting that and changing that mindset, even for women going into a financial services organization, to be able to think, hey, maybe there's some other opportunities here for me. Maybe there's some other things I can do. Maybe I don't have to have, any formal sales training to be able to be successful in this industry. There's a real opportunity there.
You talk about women being in these service roles and maybe them not seeing the opportunity or not realizing they can step into the opportunity. You think there's a belief issue there with some of the women that they've seen other women working in service roles and they say I can be comfortable there. Does it take something more for a woman, just like it does for a man, to be able to say I can say more, I can do more, I can become more, and getting them willing to step into that uncomfortable place that they're going to step into a sales role or step into a starting an agency or starting an RIA firm? What's the big holdback there?
I think that there is this, there's can be, well, let me back up. To your point, there is no difference for a man to walk into this role as there is for a woman to walk into
Agreed.
that role.
Yeah, agreed.
But I do think that there can be some sort of a view as a woman, from a risk-taking standpoint. And it depends. Every household's different. Maybe there's the woman we're talking about is married and has a couple kids, and her job is the safe job, right? Her career, and so from that standpoint, it can be daunting if you are going into a sales role that within our industry, there's a good chance it's commission based. Some, if not all, for as far as the role is concerned. So that can be a concern, I think, for women. I think I don't think it's a capability concern, but I do think it's an optics concern for some women. If you come into an organization and you see, you look on a website and all the advisors are male and all the service folks are female. Um, now I take that as let me in. That sounds great. Sign me up. I mean, to me, I kind of thrive on that kind of stuff. Like, let me break through. Let me see what I can do in this area. Let me prove anybody wrong, right? But from another standpoint, it can be daunting to see that. So I don't think that there's a capability, a talent, any lack on the side of women as it relates to those roles. But I do think that there's just you just got to do it.
Do you think that the industry is doing enough to attract more women into sales positions where they're having an opportunity to be more of an advisor, more of a guide, rather than the customer service roles that we've seen in the past? Do you think the industry could be doing more to attract more females into the marketplace?
Listen, this is a tough topic for me because I think that they want to. I think that they're trying and they think that they are, meaning the industry.
Mhm.
But I don't think that they're necessarily going about it the right way. I think that what we need to do is position these roles as roles that are available for anybody to take, instead of saying we're tired of the way things used to be. We want things now to be this. It doesn't have to be so cut and dry. I don't think. I think that there can be communication from our industry of, let's talk about the things that are important to women.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk about the things that are important to just some women. It's not, again, it's not all cut and dry. It's not every woman doesn't plan on having a family and raising a bunch of kids, and they're concerned about the time that they have to spend on this career, the time they're away from home. But also there are some women that do, right? So we need to look at this from a broad through a broader lens, I think, rather than just honing in saying this is a super flexible career. You can make tons of money. It's very rewarding. You get to help people. Let's really kind of like dive down into these different areas and what it looks like to be an advisor. I think the best way to learn for somebody is to go into that junior advisor type position. I think more firms need to do that, need to bring on uh, folks in a junior advisor, junior agent, whatever, depending on the situation. So it's like on the job training. So you really get a feel for this is what it's like working with the clients. I know personally, I loved everything about the retail side except for the planning. I loved the people. I loved the education part of it. Um, the conversations that I got to have and in the industry learning. But when it came down to creating a plan for somebody, I didn't love that. But that's what my position allowed me to do, was just really get a feel for where is my best fit within this organization.
Do you think the industry could be doing more in intern roles and agencies and organizations that want to get more women involved in this industry and in their agencies and in their firms and in their organizations? Do you think more of these intern type roles or introductory roles or junior partner roles, do you think that would be beneficial in helping expand the opportunity for more women?
Yeah, I mean, I think it expands. Different topic probably for a different day, but I think bringing on a junior producer, junior advisor is just it's gonna help you with your own firm, from an expansion and a growth, and on an entry level to where you're not making a full commitment to somebody that's been in the industry for years and you're trying to get them to do things the way your office does things. And so I do think that there's just a huge opportunity for junior advisors. And then from a uh, there's been a lot of talk regarding how young producers are brought into this business these days. There's been a lot in the past few weeks, and I've seen it firsthand. And that junior advisor role really gives, or junior producer, whatever the case may be, really gives somebody new to the industry just such a broad look at everything to really get a feel for, like, maybe somebody is brought in as a junior advisor and they just realize, man, I love putting together the plans. I mean, that's just what I want to do. I just want to, I want to be in that kind of role. Or maybe I just love educating people. I want to be in front of people, and so I've always had that conversation with folks that have worked with me in the past, either new to the industry or younger folks, when they're like, this just isn't for me. I'm like, this particular role might not just be for you. But I'm telling you, like, look around. This is such a large industry. There's so many different opportunities here. And it's a great industry to be in. So yeah, I definitely think on both sides, that junior advisor role is can be key.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and money makes the world go round. We've heard that old saying for years, and understanding how money works and being able to take that experience and share that with someone else so they can make better informed money decisions that lead to better outcomes 10, 15, 20 years down the road, or even leaving a legacy to their kids or their grandkids. All
Mhm.
that's valuable. And the
Yeah.
opportunity to learn, I think, is tremendous. Now I've been
Yes.
in this industry for a long, long time. And I've had an opportunity to work with a number of successful men and a number of successful women. And one of the things my dad taught me early on was the fact that, John, you can learn from anybody at any stage in life if you're open and willing to learn. Now, as I say that, it's also appropriate that the people that are ahead of you on the journey be willing to share their knowledge, their wisdom, and their expertise. Because
Mhm.
if they don't do that, that knowledge and wisdom and expertise passes on when they pass on. So, thinking about the successful women that are in our industry right now, we've got some amazing, incredible women that have really, forged the way and have kind of been the pioneers for where we are now. Why do you think it's so important that these successful women begin to speak up and begin to share their wisdom, begin to share their insight, begin to share their knowledge and their life experience, and maybe take on a mentorship role for other, I guess we could call them next generation female advisors? Why is that something that's so important right now?
Great question. I love this question. First, let me say I'm part of this is my maybe third or fourth participation in a mentor mentee program, and I'm in one currently right now. And I'm actually the mentee in this scenario. And I specifically asked, they asked me if I wanted to be a mentor, and I was like, I have really personally not had a mentor myself. Um, I would love, is there somebody that would be willing to somebody, be willing to mentor someone like myself who's, 20 plus years into her journey? Is there somebody like that? Yes, we actually have somebody, and I've been paired up with a wonderful relationship. But why that is so important, I go back to my early days in the wholesale side, and the folks that ran the organization I worked for would talk endlessly about their mentors and when they started in the business. And back in the good old days, in the early 80s, in those those in broker dealer insurance groups, that they just had so much fun, and they had these great mentors. And time after time hearing these stories about the mentors, I just kept thinking, man, I want a mentor. Why can't, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, can you be my mentor? Fast forward, I had this conversation, probably about 2018, with a woman I greatly admire and respect within the industry, Judy Hoberman. And I was telling her this exact story. I said, everybody's always talking about having these mentors. I've never had one. She said, honey, all you got to do is ask. And I said, oh, okay. I didn't know that's how it worked. I thought these things sort of evolved and it just sort of happened, but she enlightened me that you just have to ask. So in answer to your question, yes, I think that having these sort of mentor um, relationships for women is extremely important, because most really successful folks in this industry, who are mostly men, have had that. They've had that. And so um, we owe it to ourselves to be able to pass that along. It doesn't necessarily mean it needs to be woman to woman, but we absolutely need to continue on with that trend and give back essentially to the industry.
Yeah. And I love what you just said there. It doesn't have to be woman to woman. It could be man to woman, woman to man. Again, we can learn from anybody if we're open and willing to learn. And I think that's something that's valuable that we get no matter where we are. And the farther we are on our journey, the more knowledge we have to share. But what I find is the farther we go down this path of learning this industry, we discover there's things we still don't yet know. And being able to have a mentor in our life at any stage of where we're at and learning from the people that are still ahead of us on the journey can be incredibly valuable. So if I
Absolutely.
think about the industry, Marty, as we get ready to kind of wrap up this session here, if I think about the industry as a whole, and specifically because it's still predominantly men in these roles, What do men need to think about that are working in this industry today to make sure that we've got an inclusive environment where women are seen as equals, where women are given opportunity? What do men need to be doing more of they're not doing to notice and pay attention to and give opportunities to the women that have more to contribute, but maybe just need a little bit of encouragement or just a little bit of nudging to step into that next step in their journey?
Yeah, I love that, John, because I think you're right. I think it's more about just needing a little bit of nudging. I don't think that there's lack of opportunity. I don't think that there's, uh, especially today, years ago, yeah, maybe it was a more of a boys club, but I don't necessarily feel that way now. I feel like there's opportunity out there for everyone. And going back to, the statistics you're talking about earlier about all the trillions of dollars that are going to be coming into the hands of women, that doesn't necessarily mean that those women all want to work with a woman producer either. There's many women that feel more comfortable working with a man when it comes to financials. However, it behooves you to have an option within your firm, right? So as a business owner, I think it just makes absolute sense to bring on to diversify your team a bit and just and for the sake of your clients, right? So we all know this. Anybody that's ever had clients as part of their working life knows that you're not for everybody, right? And that's okay. That's okay. And to be able to say, you know what, this we're just not connecting here. I think she or he would work better with you. To be able to have somebody to pass off to is huge because then you still keep the relationship within your organization. You're not losing it to somebody outside. And then you have the opportunity to also grow your organization with all the people that new team member is going to be able to reach that you might not otherwise have.
Yeah, some of the most effective organizations I've seen are broadly diversified. They have men, they have women, they have seasoned veterans, they have younger individuals that are up and coming that are more technologically savvy than their older counterparts. And that ability to give the client a choice that they can work with somebody that they're comfortable with, they feel like can take them on that journey, knowing that there are other members of that team that they can also lean on to get the knowledge and wisdom and expertise. To me, that seems to be a win
Yeah,
across the board.
yeah, absolutely.
So, Marty, any last words before we wrap up today that you want to share?
I want to thank you for having me today. I do think that it's you're not you're not awake if you're not seeing the opportunity that there is out here for women in our industry. There people we're flashing it all over the place. So what that means for your particular organization or your team, you have to decide. But I think it's definitely, an area where they're not the loudest voice screaming for the position, but it's definitely an avenue that I would explore if I was a business owner.
Absolutely. So Marty, what's next for Legacy as we're coming into this new year 2026 in the role that you're in? What's next?
Oh, we're so excited about 2026. This is going to be a banner year for us. New carrier coming later in the year that we'll talk about. Updates to our honors program. So I encourage everybody to check that out. Significant opportunities, increased opportunities as it relates to our honors program. So definitely check that out. Our relationships are more entrenched and tight. We deal with partners here, and so we are definitely working with the right groups and super excited about those new ones that have come on. So I'm just beyond excited for 2026.
Absolutely. I am too. Well, Marty, I want to thank you for being on the podcast with me today. It has been a pleasure to get the opportunity to, number one, get to know you, number two, get to work alongside you, and then now to have you on our podcast so we get a chance to allow you to share your wisdom and knowledge and expertise and talking about a topic that's passionate to you. So thank you for being with us today. And on behalf of all of us here at Legacy Marketing Group, I'm Dr. John Terry. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Tune Into Sales. Have a great day.